Hi, welcome to the Find Your Edge podcast, a Horizon's Edge podcast with me, your host, Jackson Lohr, where we talk about sports, people in them, and their stories.
All right, folks, well, welcome to the Find Your Edge podcast, or Horizon's Edge podcast. I am Jackson Lohr, your host, and today I have with me Carol Foster. Carol had a background in the medical field, spent a good deal of time as a nurse in different practices, and then transitioned to doing sleep studies, and currently Carol is working as the general manager at Movara East here. So thanks for coming in, Carol.
Thank you.
So why don't we start with talking about what you're doing now at Movara East. So just tell our viewers a little bit about
So I came because I'm so excited about Movara East opening up. It is a sister company to Movara in Utah. It was the prize for the Greatest Loser. So it was, if they weren't the Greatest Losers, and they came to Movara and they helped kind of get them prepared to go back into their lives. It was called Fitness Ridge at that time.
Okay. Yeah.
When that contract dissolved, it came to Movara. So this is the first Movara that's been on the East Coast, and we're super excited about it.
Yeah.
Our goal is to have people come, and it's a health and wellness center.
Right.
We do recovery, we do weight loss, and when I say recovery, it's into, we have people that come to recover over deaths in families,
Right.
or operations, or needing knee replacements. We just kind of nurse them through that, and our goal is to have them leave a better version of themselves than when they came.
Right. So you're approaching not just the physical side of things, but in approaching those things and in building other habits around that and the psychology of that, you're approaching like spiritual a little bit and the mental component of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a full program. It's very structured.
Right.
And it encompasses all of that, so that when you are done with it's a week-long program, Sunday to Sunday.
Yeah.
And from experience of being in the program, I walked out of Movara such a better person and in such a better place, and was prepared to take myself further.
Yeah.
And that's our goal with every guest we have.
Yeah. So you started out as a guest.
I started out as a guest.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Talk to me about, first of all, why you went, and then what that experience was like.
So I was in the medical field, and that was a very hard time with the COVID situation.
Yeah.
I didn't take a break I never had COVID. I never took a break from COVID. I just worked straight through.
Yeah. And at the time, you were in what setting working?
I was in a nurse setting. I was in worked for an eye physician that did, we were doing macular degeneration issues and with cataracts and things like that. So I was in about 3 different fields.
Yeah.
I had my own company that I had started with sleep apnea, and I just went as hard and as fast as I could. And in a year, I lost my mother, my sister, my aunt's daughter, and my 15-year-old dog. And one day I just went to go to work, and I just said no. And I do help care for my father, and Movara was close. It was like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I just told my dad, I can't do it. And I went to Movara, and I kind of looked into it, and ended up doing a week there, and then stayed and started on as an employee, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And when the opportunity came to bring that to the East Coast, and I was so excited to join the team.
Yeah.
It's something I believe in. It's something I've seen work for many, many weeks for many, many people. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's very cool.
Yeah, so it's life changing for you, and you've seen it be life changing for others as well.
Yeah, I was, when I went to Movara, I was a little bit, I've been in the medical for so long, it was like, I'm not going to go to the lectures because I know what they're going to talk about.
Okay.
And I hurt my ankle hiking a little bit. I just turned a little bit, and I was going to ice. And it happened to be that the lecture room is very comfortable with nice chairs, and it's set up great to prop your leg up. So I thought, well, I'll just go sit in the back. And then all of a sudden, I realized that what they were talking about, it was a life coach, and what they were talking about is how we don't grieve when we should. And that was something that had happened to me.
How timely.
I had not grieved for the losses in my life.
Yeah.
And I was holding back so much. And from that time, that was the first Monday I was there. I think I hurt my ankle at like 9 o'clock, and by 11:30, tears are just streaming down my face because I'm realizing that this is how to fix why I'm broken. And so, honestly, I lost 8 pounds in that week, which felt great.
Yeah.
But nothing felt greater than what I gained. I gained clarity and focus, and I was able to prioritize me in my life again. I had cut me out.
Right.
It was, I get up, I do this, and I get to go back to bed. And that was my life for almost a year and a half.
Wow.
And when I came to Movara, they changed everything. And so, now I can put myself and prioritize myself to where I'm a better caretaker for my father.
Right.
I was afraid to go and leave him. And when I walked in the door a week later, he said, "I like the new you." It had changed not only the inside, but outside I was a different person.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah.
So I love the program.
Yeah, it's hard not to believe in something like that when you've experienced such a profound change.
Yeah.
And the people around you can see it too.
Yeah, and the program is so simple. It's very structured, but it's designed to be simple.
Right.
And so it's something that you can take out the door with you and finish.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I get to help people now come do basically what I did in whatever scenario that is. So we have car accidents, we have whatever.
Right.
But they walk out in a better place like I did. And
Right.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah. And just in my experience talking with some clients, I mean, you have guests coming in who just want, a nice relaxing week where, again, it's not very relaxing because they're working hard, but it might be relaxing in that they get to detach from work, detach from other responsibilities for a bit. But then you also have people, again, like you said, who come to grieve, who come to recover from major accidents, who come to, maybe they've had a major surgery. I know we've had, divorces, other things that are just traumatizing or difficult to get through, and having people there to push us is just huge. And people who have the knowledge and really bringing all that into one place.
It is.
Is amazing.
It is very amazing, and it's medically when I came in and I realized that we have so many people that want knee replacements, but there's restrictions. You have to be in a weight where the doctor and anesthesiologist feel like this is going to work for you.
Yeah.
And so we've had so many people come that want knee replacements and haven't been a candidate because of their weight or
really. Wow.
And so it's been so great. They come and we help them on a weight loss program, and then they get their new knees.
That's cool.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
That's really cool. And just the amount of mobility not only you get from just the knee replacement, but having taken some weight off to be able to move better, recover from that better, and I'm sure people feel like $1 million after that.
Yeah, so in my experience recoverings with guests and for patients, the surgeons will tell you that 4 pounds of weight, or I'm sorry, 1 pound of weight is like taking 4 pounds of pressure off your knees.
Yeah.
And so it's huge when they lose weight because the pain helps go away.
Right.
So you'll see them and they'll come in and they'll be limping, or they'll have a cane or a walker, and pretty soon when that weight, even like the 3 and 4 pounds, drops off, you'll see them stand up straighter. You'll see them be able to walk better. It's awesome.
In that first week.
Yeah. And then they start getting excited because they realize they can have the surgery, and then they just start working harder. And we have the equipment to help them. We have the pool. We have the new steps. So it doesn't matter what situation they come in and what mobility issues that they have or don't have.
Right.
We can take them to the advanced or to the very beginning, and still everyone goes through the program and comes out a better version of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool.
It is so fun.
So cool. What are, for the program as it is, what are some things you're looking forward to that you're like, oh, hey, we have this in the works, this is something exciting we're doing? Talk to me about those things.
One of my favorite parts of the program is when I came to the program, the one thing was cooking. I'm not a cook.
Yeah.
It's not something that I've done. And so you sit down at Movara and there's no food is brought into Movara. You have to come in without food.
Yeah.
And we do give you all your food. And it's great. You just sit down, you're hungry, they put food in front of you, and you're thinking, well, I'm going to go home, and how am I going to take care of this?
Yeah.
And so they taught me a little bit, and they gave you a cookbook, and it was really cool. But at Movara East, I put into play a nutrition class demo and a nutrition week.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
We just had that today. We had shrimp scampi, which was zucchini zoodles, where they make them around. They had garlic toast on vegan bread with vegan butter, and you could have shrimp or tofu, and it was so good. He made it right in front of us, and he cooked it in a toaster oven that it's the same one I have at my house, because I said, if I can do it, let's see this. It's a convection toaster and an air fryer.
Yeah, wow. That's
and he
nice
made it, he totally made it in that, and it was unbelievable, and it was 222 calories.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
That's what I am excited about, because now I have a situation where we can cook in front of you, with you, answer your questions right there.
That's cool.
We have a whole week of that, and it's been so rewarding.
So I've taken a couple cooking classes. That's almost what they do with a cooking class, is they show you exactly how to do it right in front of you, then you get to eat it.
Yeah.
Right?
So and he even has them dice things. Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah, so you get involved with that. That's really awesome.
So, and that's, like I said, that was one of the things as I was worried about. I'm going to go home and I'm not going to be able to cook. And now I can cook, because I've been taught step by step how to cook.
Yeah.
We are very excited to be at Horizon's Edge so that we can play pickleball. This is such a fun place to play pickleball.
Yeah.
And our guests, we just announced that the tournament was coming up, and so one of the things I'm excited for is that our guests come from all over the United States, and they get to come here and play different competition than they've ever seen.
Yeah,
and they're thrilled. They're so excited to come. We have hike weeks that you are here in this beautiful Shenandoah Valley and forest, and the colors are amazing. And so the week of October, we have hike weeks where we'll take you on extended hikes for 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And went real last fall. That went very well, and I'm so excited to start that again.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta get here for the fall colors.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, this year I feel like it was especially good. Over other years, but yeah, I mean
the lakes and the streams and the waterfalls and the colors. Just unbelievable beauty, which is different than what I'm from. So because we did a dry canyon and beautiful red rocks.
Right, so which is stunning.
Oh, very stunning.
The foliage certainly isn't there. And
this is just a whole different experience.
Yeah, it doesn't vary up quite as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, very cool.
So yeah, it's been so fun.
Awesome. Now, so I'm gonna kind of work backwards with you.
Okay.
So you're at Movara East now. Came here because of like getting involved in Movara, and we've talked about that. What was it like for you getting into? You had mentioned your sleep study that you've done and the business that you've run with that. What was it like getting into that?
Well, I've been interested in sleep for quite a while, because I've been taught that my grandma used to say to me, you just go to sleep, but everything will be better in the morning. And I lived with her till I was, probably around 11. So it was great. And so I knew sleep cured so many things as a young child, but not even really medically what it cured.
Right.
And I think the first step that I remember is when Reggie White was having trouble. We were big football fans in my family. Reggie White was having trouble, and I remember when Reggie Bush couldn't go to he wasn't going to be able to go with the team to play the game because he had sleep apnea, and I always wondered what that was.
Yeah.
And then my son played college baseball, and he was struggling at college. And
where did he play?
He played for the division of the University of South Carolina.
Okay.
And he's a catcher, and he just one night he called me and he just said, I'm gonna quit, I can't sleep. And he had been to the doctor previously before telling me this, and they had him on Adderall at 10 when he went to bed, and told him to take an Ambien when he was at 2 if he couldn't sleep. And Medically, that's just not something that I've been okay with or taught to be okay with.
Right.
And I started to study. In my background of training, I only had about 4 hours of training on sleep.
Right. It's
and
not something they focus a lot
it's
on.
not. Even medically with doctors, it's not something they probably do more now. But when I went to school, they did not.
Yeah.
And in fact, I asked a lady, we have a physician's assistant with us this week, and I asked her how many hours she thought she had, and she said 4. She said, and that's exactly what I think I had.
Yeah.
But I just started looking into sleep, and I bought myself my own sleep study kits for home, and I ended up getting my son an oral appliance.
Okay. So so this is the equipment that you would use for a sleep study.
Yeah, so I bought these. I started my company, Personal Sleep Apnea Care.
Great.
And I bought these units.
Okay.
And so I would get prescriptions from doctors,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would ask me to do the sleep study at home. So I'd go to your house and fit it on you. It's very simple. This comes in and goes here, right above your sternum.
Okay.
It has this belt that has wiring in it.
Yeah.
And it lets me count every breath you take.
Okay. So
And
as
that
your chest
goes-
expands. Yeah.
Every breath will just 1, 2,
Okay.
and then
Great.
it has a cannula for your nose. It goes into here,
Yeah.
and an oximeter.
Okay.
And so basically, you look when you have it on. I don't know if you can see this, but you look like this when you have it on.
Okay. Yeah.
So very simple instructions. I like you to do it for 2 nights because no one sleeps the same, and then I can get a good average.
Right. Yeah.
So when I did my son's, the graph goes 5 to 15 is moderate, 15 to 30, no, 5 to 15 is mild, 15 to 30 is moderate, and anything over 30 is severe.
30 what?
Apneas.
Okay.
So an
those are
apnea
times-
is
go
a
ahead.
time that you stop breathing for 10 seconds or longer.
Okay. Wow.
And that's how basically insurance pays for a sleep
Right.
study. So that's insurance definitely documented how our little graph's gonna go, right?
Yeah.
But in my experience, whether you are, I've had guests that I've only guests. No, I have guests because I work at Movara.
Right.
I had patients that were maybe a 7 that were doing worse than I had patients that maybe had 34. And this is an hour.
Yeah.
So 34 apnea is an hour. Stopping breathing for 30 seconds or longer.
For 10 seconds.
10 seconds or longer in that hour.
God,
Or 7 times for 10 seconds or longer in that hour. And I have patients that did it 7 times that had worse comorbidities and symptoms than the ones that were
30,
higher.
30 times an hour. I mean, you're talking. That's a lot of time.
And that's just moderate.
Yeah.
That's just moderate. Most guests are higher into.
That's 5 minutes of the hour not breathing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And so what the test does is it monitors what happens to you. So your oxygen decrease and make sure that you're getting enough oxygen in the night and what your percentage of oxygen is after that you've had these apneas.
Yeah.
And there's obstructive apneas and there's just the normal apneas, and it's wonderful that you can look at it all and put together the story.
Yeah.
And then I give that back to the doctor, and the doctor decides what program he wants the guest to go.
Okay.
Sleep studies, people don't like to take them because they don't want a CPAP, but you don't always have to have a CPAP.
So what are kind of alternatives that?
So this is this is what I got my son.
Okay.
I got him a different one, but it's like this. So it's a retainer made by a dental professional. It has to be a dentist.
Yeah.
Doctors can't make these.
Okay.
And you go in and you get your just like when you had braces, or I don't know, I had braces. When you go in and you take your alginate impressions, or they can do it digitally.
Okay.
So this is fit to just one mouth.
Right.
Okay. And so then this goes on your bottom teeth, and this has stoppers here that we can adjust with a pin. It's a little T-pin, and we can make this go out and in.
Yeah.
And we're adjusting your lower jaw.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is when you fall asleep and you fall backwards, your lower jaw muscles, they relax,
Yeah.
and your jaw goes back, and it
Right.
cuts, and that's obstructed breathing,
Right.
right?
Because that's
That's right.
I mean, that's the same reason we would do like a head, the chin tilt,
Right.
For,
If someone
like-
passed out, if
Right.
someone was coming back from surgery,
Right.
exactly.
or
Exactly.
if someone's having trouble breathing, that's the first thing you do. Is,
Right. You're going to do that
Quick
because
chin
that
tilt.
jaw,
Yeah.
once it relaxes, falls back.
Right.
And so that's obstructive. Central apneas are a whole different thing. Those also are recorded on the test, but that's brain related.
Okay.
But most people just have a very simple sleep apnea.
Yeah.
So this goes on the top, this on the bottom. When the bottom tries to fall back, it can't. And then it's usually not more than 3 millimeters that we have to put this out.
That's crazy.
And then right after you wear it, there's a bite repositioner. So it doesn't hurt your bite.
Yeah.
But it's highly effective. And when my son had it, my son didn't snore, but he was silently having apneas and not breathing. And he totally was better, was great, went back to playing, and did extremely well. And I was so happy to get him off of the medications he was on. He was very young to be on that high a dose of anything.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you're talking about 19, 20-year-old kid at that point?
Yeah, he was not more than 20 and had probably been on antibiotics twice in his lifetime.
Right.
Once was when he was born.
Yeah.
I mean, he just was healthy.
Right. So he shouldn't need all these medications to sleep.
That was so high. That was so high. And then something else that's really cool about these appliances is this little chip.
Yeah.
So on a CPAP, it'll tell you, because if you have sleep apnea, you have to let the DMV know, like your license, our truck drivers and things, they have to let people know. Mm-hmm. So they have developed this little chip that goes into these oral appliances. Yeah. And you take this, and the doctor has a little chip reader, and he can tell when you put that in if you've wore it 70% of the time, which is what you have to wear it for to be compliant.
Okay. Yeah. So to get your insurance.
So this would totally, if you're mild to moderate, this would totally replace a CPAP. Wow. If you're higher than that and you're not going to test, this would be the best way to go. So way cool stuff about that. This is another thing that you just make people feel better when you leave. It's great. Right.
Yeah. So you're pretty much in the business of helping people to feel better.
I do like to do that. Yeah. Yes.
And have always kind of been that way.
Yeah. Very, very caring. Have taught or have cared for my elderly grandparents and parents almost my whole life. Yeah. So I like it.
That's very cool. Yeah. I mean, some people just have that gift of wanting to care for other people and truly wanting that to be their life's mission, and then being very good at it. So
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. If someone were to, want to get a sleep study from you, how would they contact you that way?
We can do that a couple different ways. If they want insurance to cover it, then they would need to go to their doctor, and their doctor would need to fax a prescription. Okay. And then we would just take from there, call their insurance, let them know if they had benefits, and go that way. If they are just curious and want to know, I do these for $120. Okay. That basically is my fee just from, I know this sounds really ridiculous, but this cannula is a lot. Oh yeah. And everything comes in. So it's very reasonable. For $120, then I do the test. I'll read it for you, read it with you, and it's yours. Yeah. I would never, if you didn't have a doctor's prescription to me, that test only goes to you. Yeah. And so that's how I did my son's, because I didn't know if he was going to have horrible sleep apnea, and I wanted to make some decisions. And so when I tested him, and I think he was about 17, so he's just out of mild, hitting into moderate, but it was affecting him worse, like I said, than patients that I've had in this time forward in the 60s. Yeah. My son was more, had more comorbidities, and it was affecting him. So the great thing about that is that you can make your own decisions. Right. If you have this sleep study and you have apneas, you can go to your dentist and say, I want a snore appliance. Mm-hmm. It'll be the same appliance. It's just not called a sleep apnea appliance. Huh. And then you can put that in. Your dentist will help you titrate it. He'll stop your snoring, which will help your sleep apnea. Huh. You can retest with this in your mouth to see how it's doing. So it just depends on if you want to be responsible for your own care, or if you, and obviously if it had a lot of central apneas and things like that, I would direct you back to your doctor. Right. Yeah. But many of I do a lot of the pilots. I live by Delta, the hub, and so I do a lot of the pilots, a lot of the truckers, and it's just been wonderful, because they wonder and they're scared, because they don't want to have anything happen.
Right, for sure.
And it's been a great way for them to kind of monitor themselves without having to get into all the questions medically yet. So that's been a great thing.
Yeah. Is this, like this particular type of appliance, is that something you think is just undersold? Because you talking about, this is the first time I've really heard about anything like this.
So it is kind of undersold because there's not really a place for it to be sold. The hard part of this is that doctors can only prescribe or diagnose you with sleep apnea.
Right.
And dentists can only make the appliance. And so when you go to the dentist knows if you have sleep apnea. He is right there. He's got you back in a chair in the perfect position. He can see it. So he might recommend to you, hey, you might have sleep apnea, but he can't diagnose you, and he can't really even tell you to go see your doctor. He can recommend that.
Is that just so he would know that based on like the position of your jaw and
because he's in there trying to work, and he'll notice he'll have to stop sometimes and tip some patients up because they quit breathing.
Oh my gosh.
Because he's just got them back in the chair.
They're relaxed and
so that's how they know. But if you go to the dentist and you might see something by this is Somnomed, there's Prosomnus, there's probably 1,500 of these.
Okay.
But they probably have a device. They're going to market it as a sleep snoring appliance.
Yeah.
Because they can't market it as a sleep apnea appliance. So
Gotcha.
it'd be a snoring.
Okay.
And then that's how you would get started there. And it's the same appliance. It literally is the same appliance. And the dentist can titrate it for you. But we always say snoring is an alarm. So if you are snoring, that's an alarm to sleep apnea. And many people will just go to their dentist and say, hey, can I try the appliance? They'll fit it on them. They'll titrate it. And then if I was doing that, I would definitely want to get sleep studies to make sure the appliance was working.
Yeah. So you would do like a before and after.
Definitely. You need a baseline. Anytime you think you have sleep apnea, you've got to have a baseline. Once you have your baseline, we can keep that and go from that. But you have to have a baseline.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotta know what's going on.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and these are probably, it takes guests maybe 2 to 3 weeks to get used to this.
Gotcha.
And then it's just normal. I think, Mitch just turned like 30 or something, so he's had his for a long time. Every night, no problem, just works. And they last.
Right.
I mean, they last forever. Well, unless you dropped it or stepped on it or something. But if you cared for it, they last a very long time.
I mean, you're putting it in before you go to bed and then washing it, taking it out. You know?
Yeah, and there's carrying instructions. It's very simple.
Right.
You basically brush it. I like to soak the ones for my patients. I soak in mouthwash just right before they put them in, so it tastes just like their toothpaste.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And that's just
good.
Nice. And it's got
it keeps the bacteria away that way.
You guys can see it, but it's a thin layer of cushion in here.
Okay.
So it fits different. I mean, it's not tight like a retainer that way. It's kind of cushioned.
Right.
But they are amazing and they save lives. I mean, they just save lives.
Yeah. I mean, how many people you think? Again, you hear all the time about people who die in their sleep, and it's probably from some sort of like issue with their breathing.
Yeah.
That brings on other issues a lot of times, but
I know that before sleep apnea was diagnosed as a big problem, we would lose people that were coming out of anesthetic just because we didn't know, and then people just taught us grab their jaws. We didn't know why we were grabbing their jaws. We just knew that if we grabbed their jaws and we pulled them and we held them and we moved their neck, they'd start to breathe. Yeah. And we just hold them there until they came back and their eyes would open and they would adjust, and then we'd let it go, and then if it happened again, we'd do it. But no one said, hey, if you put this person on a CPAP, he's just going to wake up. Now that's what we do.
Okay.
If you go into the hospital now and your oxygen is below 90, or if they even think that you're going to have sleep apnea, they're going to just put you on a CPAP to bring you out of surgery.
Huh.
It's just protocol now.
Wow.
Which is so nice. Yeah. Then we don't, then we don't have a problem. But in that case too is where a lot of people hate CPAPs, because obviously they're not using the best CPAPs. They're not, it's uncomfortable, and they're kind of your mind's a funny thing, right? You don't feel good and you're kind of in pain, and then you have this on, so it's making it worse, and then you realize that all of a sudden CPAP's hurt.
Right.
And that's incorrect too. CPAPs
Right.
can be very comfortable.
Right.
And sleep is great.
Yeah.
Sleep is great.
Sleep is very good.
Sleep is great.
Yes, I love my sleep.
Yeah, I'm a better person when I sleep. My kids leave and say, "Go take a nap," because I need sleep. So.
Yeah, I got into a bad habit in college. I would study until 2, 3, 4, 5 later in the morning, and would just caffeinate and enough to stay cognizant enough to get some information down. Didn't realize that, if you're not sleeping, you don't actually retain that information.
Exactly.
Probably wasn't until senior year of college, or really got much better with it in my master's degree, my graduate study of, hey, yeah, 8 hours of sleep is a lot better than an extra 2-3 hours of studying.
Yeah, it's so much more retention, and I think that happened to me too. Yeah. I was a person that studied, and then I realized that all caffeine did was block a receptor in my brain saying that I was tired.
Yeah.
It didn't help me do anything or even function any better. It just blocked that, and I was like, wait.
Yeah, so adenosine receptors.
Yes.
Yep.
Some craziness.
Yeah. A professor of mine at Messiah, shout out Scott Kiefer. He all of his focus was on caffeine studies and caffeine power studies, caffeine and other. So he spent a lot of time worrying about that very specific receptor.
Yep.
That he would just do. I think probably. He might be in his 6th or 7th, maybe even more, year of just studying those things, and he just zeroes in on it.
I love focus studies like that. Yeah. That's how I took on sleep.
Right.
I went 8 years straight just focused on sleep.
Yeah.
And it was incredible, and it starts to mean something, and
yes.
And you start to understand, and it's
when you deep dive it like that, you really get to know it. And he can talk for hours and hours, and I'm not doing it justice. And then when you talk about like the importance of sleep, especially for like your son as an athlete, a college athlete too.
With straight A's. I mean, he was a good student too.
And what I think people, I may have mentioned this in an earlier podcast or something, but I get real fired up about it. People will get fired up about these college athletes like not performing, like, man, they look terrible, what are they doing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They'll see them playing on TV, and what you don't realize is, and again, some athletes get the royalty treatment where they're not supposed to, but they don't actually have to do their work.
Right.
This is unfortunate that happens some places. I'm not gonna go there, but
we know it's true.
Yeah, for the most part, these athletes, they have to be real humans. They have social lives. They're young adults. They're, just turning 18 for some of them, on their own for the first time, trying to figure out how to live on their own. There's a lot of stress. They're put in a brand new environment. They're having to perform at these elite levels. And then on top of that, they have to study.
Yeah, competition in every single part of their life. All the time.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
So crazy.
And the heightened stress of all that. If they're not sleeping, I mean, you'll get juniors and seniors who are walking in look like zombies. And then you can tell how just how gifted and how they've built up that mentality of just being elite all the time, because they can turn it on, but then when they do relax, you see that shut down. And for some of them, if they're not taking care of themselves, especially sleep, man, I mean, I've sat with guys who just in the locker room, in the athletic training room, who just stare into space once they're turned off, once they know that they don't have to perform anymore.
Well, and we know too how much sleep is for healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it is such a healer, and when I can't even imagine just being on medication and you're just still keep going and you don't get the sleep to take care of that I think that would be crazy. I was just saying, at Movara we don't have like the caffeines and the drugs, and so when I went to Movara, they had no caffeine. Now they give you 1 cup of coffee in the day.
Yeah.
We didn't have that when I went. There was no caffeine.
Right.
I mean, I went from you could have taken my blood, it would have been Diet Pepsi, to no caffeine, and I was shaking.
Yeah. There's legitimate withdrawals.
We see them every week, and I try to tell them, please try and cut a little bit before you come, because it's so hard, and it takes them 3 days. I think they do it faster because of the nutrient dense food that we have.
Right.
It does help that a little bit.
Absolutely.
But wow, that's a come off. It's awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
awful.
the headaches alone.
They're just intense, aren't they? Whew.
Yeah.
So it's not good for us, we obviously know.
Right.
But it gets us through if we have to have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
absolutely. That's super cool. I'm super interested in this stuff. I think it's really cool. I think more people should be educated about sleep and should learn, hey, what all it does for your body and what are the signs when it's going wrong.
I know too. It's kind of an uncomfortable subject because you don't know.
Right.
So, I always would go into the patient's house and I'd be like, so do you have a partner or a husband, wife, spouse, anyone else that I can talk to besides you that's going to know something about your sleep? Yeah. Because they don't know.
Right. They don't know if you don't know if you're snoring.
Yeah, you say, usually. Do you snore? They're like, I don't know.
Right.
Do you wake up tired? Yes. Well, I don't know. And so if you can ask someone, do they kick? Do they have restless leg? Because there's so much other things that just go along with this.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. So that's the first thing, is if you feel comfortable asking someone who would know that. I know that my mom told my dad frequently. He definitely knew. She let him have it. A lot of punching, a lot of get on your own side.
Right.
I just thought it was great because my mom slept with earplugs, and that made curfew really easy at my house.
That's funny.
My dad's snoring, my mom's with earplugs. I'm like, see you when I get here.
That's funny. Now, my wife and I, we live next to dog breeders, and we've had to take a couple of measures to make sure we're getting good sleep.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I now have earplugs that sit by my bed, but I've only had to use them a handful of times. We bought this device that sends out like a ultrasonic signal. So whenever the dogs do start barking, they tend not to stay barking because it bugs them a little bit.
And you don't hear it at all, so you're good to go.
Exactly. We don't hear it. Our neighbors don't hear it. They don't mind. So
puppies will settle right down.
Yep.
Good to go.
Yeah, keeps them from.
That's funny.
Because it's not just the one bark that'll wake you up. It's when they keep going.
The habitual, yes. Yeah.
And you're like, if you wake up for a half second, you're fine. But.
And if they bark once, but if you sleep and then come back and sleep, and that's another thing with sleep. That's keeping in REM, and if they wake you up when you're in REM and you have to go back into that, and that's crazy. And that's what apneas do the same thing to you. You just don't know it.
Yeah. So you're never getting the sustained restful sleep.
Right, because you stop breathing for 10 seconds, and then you'd be scared to know how much you can stay, or how long you can stop breathing when you're sleeping.
Oh yeah.
Till all of a sudden your body gets to the point where it's like, hey, wake up, and then you'll.
Right.
And then you'll start breathing again. Or a lot of people will say, I have to use the restroom 5 times a night.
Yeah.
Well, no one has to use the restroom 5 times a night unless you drink 2 gallons of water before you went to bed.
Right.
That's not normal, right? But what's happening is when you wake up, habitually, we as humans, that's the first place we go.
Yeah.
And so they wake up and it's like, oh, I'm going to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
And of course they do have to use the bathroom a little bit. And then they come back to sleep and they wake up again, and then it's like, but their body's waking them up because they can't breathe and the oxygen's too low, but you term it as, well, I just had to wake up all these times to go to the bathroom. And 9 times, I've never had a patient that had said that happened to them, that really happened to them. Dad thought that happened to him, and he ended up the opposite, where he wasn't having enough urination, and we had to change that, and he was like, I'll get up all night, but once we fix the sleeping, he just sleeps through the night now.
Huh.
And
really?
He has since he's been about 92. He slept straight through the night for a very, very long time.
Wow.
But we did have to fix that urination.
That's impressive. So what did you do, who did you consult for that?
I consulted a pharmacist that compounds holistically.
Okay.
So he tried his best to, he finds herbs and things that he can compound that will be as close to the results that you would get from a prescribed medication.
Yeah.
And he puts those all together for you.
Gotcha.
And then my dad took that, and he's still been taking that. It's been working really well for him.
Great. Yeah.
But I am a strong believer in that. There are pharmacists, and I'd be happy to share the ones that I have with you if anyone wants that.
Yeah.
But they compound holistically. So if you take in your lisinopril or you take in whatever medications you're on, they will compound to put that to where it's natural, and then you don't have the side effects.
Right, exactly.
Because lisinopril headaches aren't any much better than caffeine headaches. They're awful, and your hair hurts. Like your hair just hurts on that. And so if you find someone that can do something more natural where you still get the benefits of the medication, but you don't get the comorbidities of that, so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen to those on TV and it's scary.
Yeah.
Take this, and then you start listening, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Like, that's never happened.
Yeah, it's all those commercials where you're like accidental death, and you're like, what? No.
Or forgetfulness. Wait, I do that now. Don't do that.
Yeah.
You're just going down the line. That's never happened to me before. I don't want that to happen. Oh gosh. My kids just laugh because they'll go, watch this commercial, and I'll be like, ooh, because you don't want to have that.
Yeah.
And they think it's very funny, but I take that to heart because I've worked in the medical field and I've seen people that take that medicine. I'm like, oh, this is not good.
No.
And I love doctors. I really do. I think they have a great place in life. But there's a lot of doctors that will put you on a medication, and then you go back and you tell them what's happening, and they'll put you on a medication to take care of what's happening.
Right.
And it's just going to go like this. And your medicine cabinet is just going to go like this. And
it's not sustainable.
It isn't. And when you do the holistic one, your body has to kind of take care of it itself. And so your organs and your blood flow all change to make it happen. Yeah. And that's kind of why I like this versus a CPAP.
Right.
A CPAP is CPAP continuous pressure. It's pressure in, pressure out, pressure in, pressure out. And you can get some adjustable items on CPAPs because you can get like the BiPAP, which will have you breathe in, but it'll let you breathe out on your own. Yeah. Or an AutoPAP that will adjust the pressure as you sleep and need more. Yeah. So they've done great things with it.
Yeah, made good strides.
If you can just do it yourself, I think your body feels so much better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think again in the training world, it's very similar. You want to stimulate the body, you want to help the body where you need it, right? But where the body can do its own thing and just be stimulated in the right ways to adapt. Yep. That's where we're gonna have the least negative side effects or negative results, anything, right? Really. Negative anything, and get to feel the best coming out. Yeah. So. Which
is what we want in the first place. I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Positive, wonderful outcomes. That's all we want.
It might be more technically difficult sometimes.
Oh, it's yeah. That road is a little bit different,
and that's probably why.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
It's difficult, and in the end, it's better.
Right. Yeah. We want the quick result a lot of times, and that's not on anyone in particular. It's just how we're wired. Yeah. It's like we want that.
And it's available. Yeah. It's been made available to us.
Right.
And so we think it's okay because there it is.
Yeah.
But everyone has to just kind of decide that for themselves. Yeah. Because different bodies. I mean,
well, I'm sure as a mom,
it's different. Like
alarms were going off in your head when your 20-year-old son was being prescribed multiple medications.
I was scared.
Yeah.
I've not had any good vibes with Ambien. It hasn't worked for any of my patients, and I've heard very bad stories. And so, and that was just, I didn't even know what sleep apnea really was. I just know that when they had it, the doctors gave them Ambien, and stories of people like sleepwalking and didn't know they were out of their house. And my brother-in-law once ate like a cube of butter and didn't remember. I mean, just weird things because it's just, I think the scary thing to me about Ambien is it affects everyone different.
Yeah.
And so we have this medication that's described for all these different people by a weight or by your, the level of your issue of not to sleep. That's how we're describing it. Yeah. with between that information, which you don't know.
Right.
We just discussed that. So you don't know those questions he's asking you, and he's prescribing off those questions.
Yeah.
And then he knows, he knows weight, so there's that.
Right.
But you're so different than someone else is so different. Even your kids, when you have kids, they're all different.
Yeah.
And getting that right.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone could get that right.
Right.
Really, I don't.
Yeah.
And so, it's just one of those things where if you can just not, if you take it and it works for you, I think that's wonderful. But I just hadn't had that experience, and so when my son was on it after Adderall, which also scares me, with him not ever taking anything, I didn't have a baseline.
Yeah.
Baselines are so important.
Oh yeah.
In anything, it probably is important in training. It's important
That's
in
the first
sleep.
thing we do. Is
Yeah,
evaluation.
we gotta have a baseline.
Yep.
I
gotta know how strong you are or how fast you are in order to know what our goals are.
What we can do and what you can meet, exactly.
Yeah.
And
or how much you weigh if you want to lose weight, etc.
like
the
I
list
said,
goes on.
he had never even been had antibiotics, and my kids just didn't have them. I was in medical. I kept them. I knew when they were getting the cold, and I stopped it. And and so I was, and the trainer, the college trainer, had sent him to the doctor, and this was the answer, and I was like, I can't accept that answer.
Yeah,
I've got to fix that. And it wasn't helping him really.
Yeah.
Like, he'd take the Adderall and sleep till 2.
Right.
And then he was up and he would take the Ambien, and sometimes he'd go back to sleep and sometimes he wouldn't. I mean, there was no, I maybe if I could have said, okay, well, he took the Ambien, he slept, and he slept, I might have been okay, but I couldn't do it.
Right. Yeah.
I said I couldn't do it. It was too much. So I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I'm gonna fix it.
Right. Hey, we need more people like that, right? You're gonna see a problem and be like, all right, something.
There's got to be an answer somewhere. Let's find it.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have loved it. This is a great thing. It's a great thing for you just to know about yourself.
Right.
I mean, it's an easy fix of, do I have it? Do I not? Why am I not sleeping? What's my oxygen at 2 a.m?
Right.
It just tells you so many things.
Yeah. Is there a threshold of like age or other things that you would say, like, hey, if you're hit this age or you seeing XYZ, like, you should have this study done?
Yeah. So snoring is always an alarm.
Okay.
Because we have pediatric sleep apnea. So I mean, there are many kids have sleep apnea. I feel kind of bad about that, because when I was doing my medical, I started out in pediatrics, and it was a time when people were getting the ADHD, and we didn't know why, and then I went to seminars with craniofacial surgeons, and they're saying this is why their faces have changed. And because if you'll look back, and it's a very interesting study, but if you go back and look at kids that were in movies like in the 50s and 60s, and then look at the 70s and then look at the 80s, and watch how their faces have changed. Their faces have gone from being kind of full to being to just kind of be coming out a little bit more like this, and it's changed their position here. It's crazy. I know, it's absolutely crazy. There's a doctor in Clearwater, Florida, that's got a presentation on it. He'll just show you, like, you'll see actors, like, I know the curly hair Shirley Temple or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I remember my mom talking about her, and he started like with her, and then went through this group, and then went up to kids, and the physique and the face and where the jawbones are positioned and how they're positioned was so much different from there to here.
But is that just with like culturally what we think is appealing, and so we've gone with like stars that look like that, or
I don't know if it's this. So his theory is that it's evolved with how they've been fed as a child.
Okay. I mean,
so going from
fair.
A natural feeding of like a breastfeeding to bottles,
Yeah.
to, and then I remember when my sister had her first baby, she would had a bottle, and pretty soon they were giving them cereal, and the cereal was in the thing that you could just push it and the baby would eat really fast, and they were constantly in a sucking motion with binkies and things like that, and that was his reasoning of why this was happening.
Hmm.
I don't know why this was happening, but I can see what it did. And they'll do, like, if they have x-rays of their lower and upper breathing, you can see it. You can see how the tubes went, from circular to, they go from circular to in either side, so it's a circle here, or it's here, or it's here. And you can see it. It's so weird. It's so
That's
weird.
interesting.
But anyway, so there's pediatric sleep apnea, and then you have so under the age of 50, males have a stronger chance of having sleep apnea than women. After 60 or menopause, 50, 60 menopause, it equals out. And
That's
about 2 out of 10, or 8 out of 10 people are susceptible to sleep apnea after they're 50 to 60. So, it gets so
around 50
high.
would probably be a good time to just have a study.
Yeah, I think if you 50 plus, or if there's an issue.
Right.
If you think you're sleeping all night and you wake up in the morning and you're tired and it's hard for you to stay awake when you're driving or something like that, then get tested. Right. Because it's a very easy fix. This is it. I mean, it's so easy.
Or maybe, if you're getting up to go to the bathroom all the time.
Yeah. Or So if you have any of those cornbays, or if you wake up and your legs hurt, that's usually restless leg syndrome, which, or lack of iron, something like that, and they can fix it. Yeah. So you don't have to live with that. Right. They can fix that. We should sleep soundly. I mean, we do have issues where we have weight gain, or we have muscles or shoulders that have been out, or something like that, that can be fixed other ways too. But you should be able to sleep 6 to 8 hours a night, and you should wake up in the morning and you should feel good. Right. And if that's not happening, I sure would make it happen, because you can, and it's pretty reasonable. These run like between $1,800 and $2,000. Right. So they're kind of expensive, but they last a long time. You can also get one of these, and when I first saw it, I thought it looked like it came out of a bubblegum machine. It kind of does not look like it. But this appliance is adjusted with these bands. Okay. Yeah. But this appliance is only $500.
Oh, great.
And so this is a great starting point. And then if this works, you can go here. So they've tried to make it economical for you to kind of do your thing with this. Yeah. But if seriously, if this can make you sleep, your life's gonna change. Right. Yeah. What's 500, $2,000 to 40 years worth of good sleep. Yeah, and I mean, think how much you pay for your mattress because you use it every night. Right. Yeah, well, we use this every night too. So. Exactly. Yeah. Wow. That's very cool. Very cool. It's a great option. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about, if you're okay with it, about your experience like as a nurse during COVID. We could skip that if you'd like. It just was tough. There's probably people that have worse stories than me, but it's something that it came on us when we didn't understand whether it was what it was. Yeah. It was unknown. I mean, people started saying that COVID hit, I think wasn't like January of 2020, but we were seeing it in 2019. I'm pretty sure that my mother had it in November or December of 2019. Right. I didn't know she had it, obviously. I just saw what was happening to her. And I wasn't sure she was going to live through it. My mom was a very strong person, and I would have to ask her. I'd say, Mom, are you going to fight through this one? I mean, she'd been through cancer. She'd been through so many things. She had diphtheria when she was a child, and she literally, she tells me that she was operated on a table with a letter opener, and she had a scar like this where they had tried to get that, and just from all of it, she said so many injuries. Yeah. And so I'd always ask her, you want to fight through this, and she wouldn't even answer me with this one. If she just said no, I'm a respecter of life, but she wouldn't say anything, and she was unresponsive, and just I'm pretty sure she had COVID. But I just stayed up with her. I worked with her about 3 weeks after she got it. You know, she'd get better and worse and better and worse and whatever. That, you know, that was way before it even happened.
Right.
And then when it happened and everyone had it,
right. Yeah.
Just so hard to prioritize yourself at all during that. That's where I lost prioritization with myself.
Yeah.
You know, how could I think of me when these people were in here,
right,
and this is what was happening, and
hard to remove yourself from that.
Even with you know, they came out and said we can't do any elective surgeries, and we had people that we had taken the cataracts off of one of their eyes and we were waiting to take the other one, and now this person, their balance is off, and they're telling us that we can't do this surgery, and these people are calling us saying, I can't drive, I can't see, I'm falling.
Yeah.
I mean, there were just so many things happening, besides the hospital being filled with.
Right.
It was crazy, and I think, you know, you try and do it as long as you possibly can, obviously, and I do take care of my father also, and when my mom passed, I probably didn't grieve because when I did, he grieved, and it made I didn't feel like I was making him hysterical, so I just didn't cry, I didn't do anything, I just held him, hugged him, rubbed his back, helped him sleep, and then was so tired I fell asleep. And then he lost my aunt that he lost was 104, and it was his big sister, and it was the only other person he had on the earth that was alive in his group of people that were important to him. I mean, as far as older generation, he was the end. He was the end, and it was just really, really hard. And then people very close to me just kept going, and my sister died, and then my aunt's daughter died, and I think she had some issues at the funeral that I'm wondering. I'm just not sure what she had when she went, but she had issues at the funeral that were similar to COVID, and then you know, then your dog. I mean, I don't know how people are, but my dog is always my best friend, and when he went, that was it. I was stunned.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the one that, you know, when you went to sleep, he was right there.
Yeah.
And so
at that point, it's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back.
It was.
You know?
That was for me. That was the end. And so I just kind of quit everything, and somehow my resume ended up at Movara, and that's how I learned about them. I think with Indeed or something. I don't know how that works, but somehow it ended up there, and then they called, and I was like, "Who are you? What are you? I've never heard of this." And then they, you know, they were telling me that they're a health and wellness place, and I was like intrigued. So I drove 3.5 hours from my house. Right. I sat down and I talked to them, and couldn't make any decisions. I was broken. Right. And they were very smart. They said, "Why don't you come do a week, and then we'll talk." Yeah. And I said, "Okay." And then I came in and I did the week, and when I got done with the week, I understood exactly what they were doing. Yeah. They were helping me be able to have clarity to make a decision that I was not capable of doing, but could do once I gained that clarity. Yeah. So then it was like, okay, I see what you want me to do. And it was a fun, kind of mediocre position because it's still helping people, but I wasn't running myself completely ragged like I was before.
Bring people in. Yeah. Make sure everything.
Take care of them. I mean, if I could tell you how many blisters and because we hike every day at Movara, rain or shine, we're usually out there hiking. Yeah. And
blisters
so
and
a lot of blisters, wound tears, rolling ankles, meniscus tears. You're just sending them in for MRIs, and so it wasn't too bad like that, but you still knew you were helping people. Right. So it was awesome. Yeah. And then it grows on you, and you just want to keep going. I mean, I loved working there, and then opening up here, I thought, how cool is it that we have it over here where people can drive from New York to see us? Yeah. Where they're flying from New York to Utah to see us. Right. And they're so tired they miss the first day. Right. Because their body can't react to giving up all the junk food, giving up all of that. But, and then going for, you know, we exercise 6 hours a day. Right. Yeah. And then lectures, and it's not easy. and we do it on 1,200 calories.
Right.
So
yeah,
and that sounds probably very low. I thought it was horrifyingly low. Well, the first time I did, I dumped a water bottle out of my backpack because I don't like the Camelback. So I had a bottle of Smart Water, and I threw in the almonds that were snacks. I had 2 things of almonds and celery. So I was like, I'm gonna starve to death, and I never ate them.
Right.
Because that nutrient dense food was fine.
Right.
And by Wednesday, I couldn't even eat what was on my plate.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, when you are, obviously there's that first couple days of adjustment.
Yeah, those are rough.
Little nutrition talk here, but like first day or 2 on 1,200 is tough. Especially when you're working out, when you're exercising as much as you are at a fitness resort. But once your stomach is adjusted and you know your stomach expands and contracts within a few days typically. But once your stomach is adjusted to that, and then having someone be preparing like these full meals of really high quality foods consistently, regularly, your body adapts to that, and it's what your body's meant to take in. So when we're used to eating, if we're someone who's used to eating processed foods, the change is dramatic.
It is crazy. We'll start the first of the week because we always you can supplement with salad bars. It's not like you starve. You can have almonds and I mean there's great snacks and there's salad before every meal. And the first time we put the salad bar out on Mondays, we stack it because they have this bowl of salad, and then pretty soon you get to Wednesday and no one's eating salad. It just goes down. And by Friday you just start, do they want me to put this out? Because they don't even eat it anymore.
Huh. That's wild.
Because the food has, your vegetables and nutrients are all in that food.
Oh yeah.
It's completely, the portions are right, the protein to carbs to vegetables, it's all correct.
Right.
And so they don't need to eat salad, you just eat it if you're hungry or whatever. And by Friday they don't even look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just done.
Right.
So it's awesome.
Yeah. And now, that's not, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not something we necessarily ask of people when they go home. The 1,200 is not meant to be a sustaining.
It depends on it just depends on the person.
Right. Right. That's fair.
Most of our guests, if they're continuing weight loss on their own, they our chef is so amazing.
Right.
Like he'll make food and he'll say, here's the recipe.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
he'll show you, he'll let you go through it and he'll show you how to make it. And so many of them take home the cookbook.
Yeah.
Like we just have a guest who stayed with us in the summer, and she has been, and I'm sure she has cheat days. You don't have cheat days at Movara because we don't do that.
Right.
But when you get out, you're going to have cheat days.
Of course.
But and then you're going to come back and
there's some healthy balance to that.
There's some healthy balance to that, exactly, and you're going to do that. But we have many guests. She took off 60 pounds. She left, I think, our resort in July or August and took off 60 pounds as of Monday this week.
Wow.
On her own. Just on her own, continuing her journey.
That's cool.
And then she's working, and you know, she just took her journey, continued it, and she's doing great.
That's awesome.
She's doing great.
And you get those a lot of those.
It's so fun. It's so fun. We had a gentleman here that I was harassing him about his blood pressure. Obviously, I'm still that person. Even though I don't pronounce that I'm nursing anymore, it is in you, and we just kept talking about it, and I kept telling him it's too high. And he kept saying, I don't feel anything. And he kept saying, and I finally said, I'm not going to tell you you're a walking heart attack, but you are a stroke. I mean, and I'm scared, and you're raising your heart rate, and you know, and I'm on him the whole time he's here, and nothing. He's not listening. He's not going to do anything. And we got a text from him. I think it was this week also. And he said, I listened. He said, I don't buy canned foods anymore. I've gone to fresh greens. I'm eating more of this, my proteins are in check, and my blood pressure is 128/76.
Wow.
And I'm like, because
there you go.
He was much higher when I was doing this here. And I was like, fine, now you're okay.
Right.
And
I think, and you know, I'm guilty of this too, but I think we got so, you know, I've read some studies about the effects of like lingering aluminum.
Yes.
From cans, from us, even if you're someone who cans at home, from canning vegetables. Now, I know a lot of people use like mason jars, which I understand is much better.
Yes.
But cause some pretty rough issues on your heart and can lead to some other issues.
Family in Alaska that knew that early on. They were in Alaska, and we would get salmon and want to bring it home.
Yeah.
And so my aunt would can it for us.
Yeah.
And she would only use mason jars, and so we would have you would have a can of tuna fish.
Yeah.
We would have a jar of salmon. Yeah. Because she would put it in those jars, and she said the same thing. She said, I can see some of these scraps, and I could see the tin as I put the lid on. I can see the dust.
Yep.
She's like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And so we just always had mason jars. I mean, so Alaskan suitcases, ours were fragile because they were all bottled.
Yeah.
But I think that's absolutely true.
I had one gentleman I worked with who I said, we talked a little bit about some nutrition habits, and I said, hey, he was trying to get his cholesterol down, he was trying to get his blood pressure down. Two things. He was young, 26, 27.
Scary, right?
Yeah, and you're like, you should not be on a high dose of blood pressure medication at 27, because what happens if you have to maintain the negative effects of a medication for 50, 60, 70 years? And
it's only going to go up because...
Right.
And so what's the hell when you get up here and it doesn't work?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we did two things. Three things. Put him on, we switched him from a cardio only approach to, I had him start lifting heavy a little bit, which is, you have to do with someone who knows what they're doing, because you can't just go lift heavy when you have high blood pressure. It's probably not a good approach. You want to be with someone who knows what they're talking about. We had him switch mouthwashes because some of the like ethanol and like alcohol based mouthwashes can actually over time raise your blood pressure. And then we had him move from canned vegetables to fresh. Those three changes brought down everything within almost normal levels.
Yeah, she probably took his sodium away completely with those cans, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Between all those things, we brought everything down, and I mean it was almost an instantaneous. You're talking a month.
Yeah. Blood pressure comes back quick. It does. If you stay healthy and like I said, if you train and you exercise and you cut it out, it does come back very quickly.
Yeah.
So too.
It was. I was shocked at how quickly, and especially for someone that young, like body adapts very quickly. And I mean, it was a month of that change. Gosh, came right under control.
And don't you just be so excited about how much you know they feel better?
Oh yeah.
I don't even know if they know how bad they felt.
Yeah.
Because that's like I have people, I'll go in to do sleep studies and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I hate this. I hate you. I hate my doctor. I hate everyone. And you're just like, okay, but he told me that I can't get paid unless I do this. That's what I would always say, just so that they're like, I'm like, I have to do this. This is my job, whatever.
Yeah.
And so then I would put it on them and I'm like, can you wear that for 2 days? I'm only going to promise you one and whatever. And we'd go through it and then I'd get it back and I'd get them to them and we'd get them treating and then I'd get Christmas cards.
Yeah.
That would say, thank you so much.
Right.
And that's when the full cycle hits.
Well, because people just, they
don't know.
Right.
They forgot.
Mm-hmm.
They forgot how they felt when they felt good.
Yeah.
And so you're right. They don't know.
Right.
And then when you see them come out of that, it's the best.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah, and that's I think what those of us who have been in the medical field or work with, you and I work with clients and guests here at Movara and at Horizons Edge, just like, we want people to feel their best and we want people to achieve their best. And getting to see them go from a place of either apathy from not feeling that way, or even worse, to a place of being encouraged, taking on new things. We've had guests come in and then get brand new jobs right out of it, and be super excited about what they're doing. I mean, that's what you want.
Life should be.
Yeah.
And I came from that. I mean, that's when I knew something was wrong with me. Is I woke up and went, where are you? Why are you here? And what is this?
Right.
I just woke up and it was like all I wanted to do was stay in bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, if this is life, this isn't what I want for life.
Right.
And I'm scared because my dad's like 96. My aunt died at 104.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm going to have those genes that are going to be longevity, which if you are like my father and still drive and still fishes and he was a pilot all his life and he's got a great life.
Yeah.
But what if you're not?
Right.
What if you're someone, my aunt died, I think I played badminton with her 4 days before she died.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we were literally playing badminton.
Gosh.
And that's great.
Yeah.
But what if you don't feel like that?
Right.
I mean, that's scary.
Yeah. That's a lot of years.
Exactly. And
yeah.
I don't want to live life like that.
Yeah.
So if you can help, and even that helps you, or I know with every one of my guests, I just, my goals go higher and higher for myself.
Right.
When I look at them and say, look what you achieved, I'm going to be better.
Yeah.
I'm going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that has helped too, a lot.
Yeah, I think, working with my clients, a lot of times I'll remind them, and there's another coach that kind of inspired this that I've talked with, and he's helped me, but just knowing your why, what's your why, is important for us as humans, right? And just knowing, like, okay, you have to, there's a purpose to what you're doing. You have to have that why. For my athletes, right? What's your why? Find that goal. Do you just want to be healthy? Do you want to be able to enjoy what you're doing? Or do you want to, do you want to be a college athlete?
It's a career choice.
Right. Do you want to experience what it's like to be a college athlete because you want to be a, trainer, sports dietitian, coach, etc., and so on. There's a lot of those careers in there, and so, I just constantly remind people, like, hey, figure out, like, think about it, meditate on it. What's your purpose?
I think you just said a great word, the meditate on it.
Yeah.
Because I think people think, but they're all over.
Right.
Because that's how I was, and with Movara, that's exactly what changed my life. I sat into a life coach lecture where someone did that.
Yeah.
And I kept
Walk
thinking,
you through like a meditation.
Yeah, they just walked us through a meditation of whys.
Yeah.
And you're all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is why this is happening.
Yeah.
And this is all I have to do to make it stop.
Right.
And not that it's easy, but it will stop.
Yeah.
When I was just laying in bed and didn't want to get out of bed, I didn't ever think anything was going to stop. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
It was awful.
And that's right. It's uncomfortable.
Oh, it is.
If you've never really been or have not recently been reflective, and kind of turned inward, meditated, it is uncomfortable the first time you do it.
Oh, it is.
Even the first several times you do it, oh gosh, like, what do I want out of XYZ? What do I want out of my job? What do I want out of my family life? All of those things. I'll do it with my athletes. We do a kind of a mini meditation at the beginning of each session, not even with athletes, but all of my clients.
Yeah.
I have them lay down. They put their hands on their rib cage, and then they take deep breaths. So,
and that's great, because then they can feel themselves breathing, so they know they're here.
Yep.
Absolutely perfect.
Eyes closed, and then so they can visualize things.
Yeah.
And then we breathe for a minute or two, and sometimes I'll just let them breathe and let them think, and usually I'll say, hey, set your intentions for today, or set your intentions for what you want to get out of this session.
It's impressive, isn't it? That's awesome. That's how, with Movara, one of the things that really got me too is we start every day with a stretch class.
Yeah.
That is like that.
Very similar.
So we start with a stretch class that is about, think about your day. This is about you.
Right.
You spent time to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then at the end of the day, we end with stretch class, and it's you made it.
Right.
You made it through the day.
And it grinds my gears to hear, oh man, really gets me when I hear so many guests that will just choose not to go to those sessions, and they're so important.
And then they're sore and they wonder why.
Right.
You're like, you have to let it go here, you have to let it go here, and that's where you let it go.
Right. Yeah.
It's so true.
It's so important for more, so many reasons. Just the mobility, the reflection, the kind of toning up and then toning down from the day. It's a good cap both ends. And that it's funny when I'm looking at like Movara as a day, what Movara looks like as a day. My sessions, my individual 1 hour sessions when I'm working with clients look very similar.
Yeah.
I
start
and end
and finish
with those breathing exercises.
But that's so smart because that's the focus and the clarity.
Right.
And that's what I was missing. I don't feel like I ever, I mean, in the medical field, there's not a lot of places for mistakes. I mean,
No.
Mistakes weren't going to be made.
Right.
That was not what I was worried about.
Yeah.
It was mental clarity for why and how, and I'm sure I could have been better if I would have been more mentally clear. But that mentally clear focus, it's okay to focus on yourself.
Yeah.
This is time you want. I mean, yeah, you learn so much about you from that that it helps with every other thing in your life. You just
it gives you clarity.
Yeah, I know myself. I mean, I know myself so much better today than I did, such a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because I think for a lot of my life, I did things because I was told to or supposed to or whatever. And now I know what I do, and I know how to do them, and I do them for me because it makes me feel better.
Right.
And I like life, and I like this.
Yeah.
And so
that's so cool.
Oh, anyone just take one class will do them amazing with that kind of energy because it's not just out in the world.
Yeah.
It's not something you can go grab. You have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And no one can do it for you.
Right.
And so that's what's so cool about what you do and Movara is you have to do it yourself. You have to come in, you have to let everything go. You have to submit to saying I'm going to do this.
Right.
And then when you come out, you're such a better person.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And even for, for my athletes, when that vision is a little more short-sighted, like one of the things we do is visualization. Visualizing success in what you need it in, right?
Right.
So for some of them, that's having a tough conversation with a parent or a coach, right? That maybe they feel intimidated or don't know how to have that conversation. Well, okay, visualize what success looks like. What are you saying? What things are you saying? How are they responding? Those things. Maybe that is what we think of it as success as an athlete is scoring a game-winning goal. And I'll walk through every step of that with them and say okay, get the pass that sets you up. Dribble, this thinking for like a soccer player, like dribble to the spot where you're going to take the shot, beat your defender, take the shot, visualize where the shot goes, the goalie's reaction, your teammate's reaction, everything. So that when you go to do it, you've seen it before. You know exactly what's going to happen.
You don't have to make a decision because you're already there. I believe in that so much. And I taught that to my kids when they were little.
That's awesome.
Just make a decision right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't ever want to decide when you're in a circumstance.
No, because you won't.
Yeah, you won't decide. You won't know what to do.
It's the same thing we do for like emergency training.
Right.
We train it so thoroughly and so exactly that you know exactly what to do. You don't have to make a decision.
Right.
It's okay. Decision's already made. A equals B. This person's,
Here we go. Yeah.
We're just activating the plan.
And it's good because they're not as planned out. No emergencies are planned out the way that you plan them out.
Right.
But when you just know how you've already made this decision, this is what you do. Yeah. That's how you save people's lives because you already know the protocol.
Yeah. The first time, so I think we had talked. I'm an athletic trainer by training, and my undergraduate was in athletic training. My first week on the job as an athletic trainer by myself, I was handling a middle school, high school ice hockey camp. And it was my first day by myself. The first couple days, they had somebody with me who was experienced, just to be like, I was like, great, awesome, I'll ease in. I can do this. The day he left, moved on to what he was doing, I maybe an hour into it, I had somebody come into my training room say, hey, we've got a kid down on the ice. He's not moving. And I had to no one had told me how to do stuff on ice before. I didn't think about that. I had never been on ice before, so that's fun. And so I ended up, we had the plan and we enacted the plan and everything went fine. Kid was fine. So that ended up great, but the kid was deaf in 1 year. So it was hard of hearing, couldn't communicate with him very well. It was his first time at something like this. And so I don't even know anyone really. So I knew two people basically. So I'm like just pointing at people trying to get things going. I knew the nurse for the camp, and she helped really well. can get those things communicated and like get EMS there. But I'm sitting there kneeling on the ice holding this kid's C-spine for 40 minutes.
Because you don't know.
Yep. Because I can't communicate with them. And so like that's one of those scenarios where it's like, man, it could have been like, definitely was not ideal.
Right.
Definitely was not one of those situations where it's like, oh yeah, this happened. It's like, oh, he can't hear me. This is not going to go well. Yeah. So thankfully everything was fine, but it's just like, you know, you have those situations that happens.
That happened to me when, my son wanted to go into medical.
Yeah.
And so his senior year, I had him work at the hospital in the ED department. And we talked about things. And because you know, it is the ED department.
It's extreme.
Yeah. And he said, what do I do if, you know, someone dies?
Yeah.
What would I do? And I said, what I did was realize that person was somebody's person. And so I cleaned them up to the best I could.
Yeah.
Because someone has to identify that body. And he was in there for 2 days.
Wow.
Car wreck, construction truck hits a grandma in a van.
Oh my gosh.
Well, obviously he's the volunteer.
Yeah.
That's when there's nothing you can do for a grandma because she passed away. The other people went and had their surgeries, but and I said, did you do okay? And he said, I just listened to you. I said, I'd made the decision that if this happened, I was going to clean them up.
Yeah.
This just was somebody's grandma, and they had to come identify her.
Yeah.
And I was so thankful that we had gone through that.
Right, you prepared him for that.
And my grandma prepared it for me. I was kind of young when I lived with her, but we went to a lot of funerals, and she prepared me to just be like, it's okay. You just do what you can, and you always remember to prepare them for this. So it worked for me, and it still worked for my son.
Yeah, in that moment, you're caring for the person's family, or that person's person.
Yeah,
right?
you take care of that person the only way you can, and the only way you can is to take care of the people that love them.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what you have left.
Yeah,
and so you go that way.
Right.
And when he'd made that decision, I was so proud of him. He did so good. I mean, it's hard to see
that's
that.
Tough. Yeah.
And he was only there for 2 days. That was his second day.
Did he decide to go into medical after that?
He did for a little while, and then he went technology.
Okay.
He was more interested in the monitoring, and he loved it.
Yeah.
He was like, and watch this, and we can do this, and this machine will do this, and that's what he does now.
Right.
He's very technically trained on things that need to happen, so people will come to him now and say, can you make this do this? And he can. He just knows how to do it.
So does he do computer programming?
He does computer programming. He does ISO something where they come in and basically he just designs what they need it to do, and then they perfect it.
Yeah.
So he's through all the stages, which is way cool.
Nice.
He loves it. He absolutely loves it.
Very cool.
But it got him somewhere. And he stayed at the house master, got an A and everything, but
that's awesome.
It's just what you do. You never know what you do until you have to do it.
Yeah.
So well.
Yeah. I think a lot of people fall into, like, kind of stumble into what they are really good at. They, you know, because at 17, 18, who do we know? You know, what do we know about ourselves, really?
It's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. I'm sure a lot of parents can resonate with that.
Yeah, right.
I'm paying how much for what?
Yeah. There's a lot of, and you are paying. That's one thing my mom said to me when I had my son. It's like, you're grounded now for the rest of your life. And I was like, wait, he's going to be 21, 18. My mom's like, rest of your life. It's kind of been true. They're great. Kids are the best. They're the best, but they'll get you. They'll get you.
Not cheap.
No, not even the smile's cheap. That's why I always used to work at the dentist. And the kids go, these kids are cheap. Yeah, their smile is really not cheap.
That's funny. Oh man, I love it. Now your son had, or you had a particular connection to a unique baseball coach. Is that right?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that, because this is a sports podcast. I want to get into.
So sports. You gotta love sports, right? So when my son was born, and he just when he came out, his shoulders, like the doctor was like, "Oh, linebacker."
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Ah!" But I looked at him and he was so healthy, and he loved, even when he's been so his hand-eye coordination has just always been amazing.
Yeah.
And we put him, I think he was like one, he was barely walking, and we gave him a bat, and he lined up at the Christmas tree and hit the ball. Just hit the Christmas ball, like way across the. I'm like,
wow.
Huh. So we knew that there
you
was
started
something
with
to do with baseball.
Yeah.
And so we put him in T-ball, and he would look out in the field,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd see where he'd want to hit the ball.
Oh
And then if you watched his feet, he would move and align his feet, adjust, and he'd put his bat back because he knew if he had to hit it slow or fast. Seriously,
That's
when
crazy.
he was little, he was like that.
That is
And
crazy. So he just had that mentality.
He just had that mentality, yeah.
Wow.
And so he played on what we call traveling teams, which I'm sure that's what they do now too.
Travel teams.
So we have travel teams, and he played on 2 or 3 of those a year. And I remember when he was 8 years old, he was on this travel team, and we were in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, trying to play this game, and he saw his first curveball.
Oh.
And he just stood at the plate, and I was like, he'll hit it, because he can do this. He stood at the plate, went by, and he goes, "Mom, did you see that?" It was so funny.
Mid-game,
Mom, did you see that? I was like, "Can you hit it?" He's like, "Yeah, but did you see it?" Because he just had never seen that adjustment before.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that he just grew up loving the game,
Yeah.
absolutely loving it. So,
And were you a big baseball fan before then?
I have been said that I would watch someone push a peanut across the floor with their nose, and I would watch that. So yes, I'm a sports fan. Any sports fan whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it, and
you're at the right place then.
Yeah, I'm in heaven. This is great. Our TV up at Movara wasn't working, and well, I told Savvy it wasn't working, and he said, "Why?" I said, "Because I want to watch the World Cup and I can't get it." So anyway, yeah, I love sports, and Horizons is the best for that. In fact, when I need to relax, I'll just come and watch people shoot hoops, just because it's relaxing to me. But anyway, so I started out big time in that, and then we were fortunate enough to meet a gentleman. His name's Ron Jackson, but many of you know them as Papa Jack. He was the Red Sox hitting coach when they first went back to the World Series.
Yeah.
He became really good friends of ours, and when my son was playing baseball in high school, and they were going through the World Series and kind of coming back from their struggles. And one day, my son hit a broken bat triple, and Johnny Damon hit a broken bat triple, and my husband was at that game.
Wow.
And they switched bats. So Johnny Damon signed his bat, and my son signed his bat, and they switched bats. And so I've always kept the bats that my kids have hit, that and their first home run balls and stuff. But I have Johnny's instead of his now. But so anyway, we met that connection, which took us to Cape Cod, which is a great area for you to be seen.
Oh yeah.
He played in Cape Cod. He met a gentleman.
A friend of mine, her uncle has a lot of hand in putting that.
Yeah, that's a
on.
great place. Mitch was very good at hitting doubles, and it went back to where he was one. He would just sit and he'd watch the field, and my dad would be yelling, "Hit them where they ain't!" That was my dad would just be yelling, and he had that ability. He would just look, and he would hit doubles, and they used to call him double trouble. And so he did really good in Cape Cod. We met Rich Sofield, Rick is the hitting coach for Clint Hurdle. When Clint Hurdle was the coach of the Pirates, he was their hitting coach. Okay. And that ended up being Mitch's coach. So he had the ties to kind of do that. And he played for a really long time, and then he got married, which I love because I have the cutest little grandkids, but he definitely could have gone all the way had he wanted to. Yeah. But when we did what you did, and we sat him down, and what does success look like to you? Yeah. I don't know if he started too soon. I think about a catcher and left-handed pitchers. Mm-hmm. That's got to get to you. I mean, I know it got to him, and I think he just had that world, and he'd experienced all he wanted. Yeah. And it taught him more than we could have ever taught him. Right. and then he got married, and he has a great career now. And it isn't in baseball,
Right.
But it
most people won't go that route.
Yeah,
right?
His wife was. I think he may have had his wife wanted to do the A and the triple A and the workup.
Yeah.
We had
that's a big commitment as
huge.
A family.
That is huge.
Yeah.
We were by the Salt Lake Bees, and David Ortiz from the Red Sox went through there, and so we would always hang out with him a little bit, and then when the kids, with Papa Jack there, when the kids started school, Papa Jack would send him a Sandy with signed balls by David and Manny and all the guys.
Wow.
And Jason Veritek, we had all those balls, and they were in a standing for the kids to start school, and so we have such fun memories. And I would never change that. People are like, "Are you sorry he didn't go play?" And I'm not. I am really excited about what he learned in all those games.
Right.
Because that was stuff that I couldn't teach him as a parent. I didn't have that ability. But the coaching, he's very conscious of being healthy.
Yeah. Something you have to develop that.
Yeah. We lived in Colorado. Drugs were high. He didn't do drugs because you can't do drugs and play baseball.
Yeah.
So there were so many things to help me with sports. I think that it is such a great opportunity for support for parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a support system for parents.
I know my parents, and my parents have always been involved in sports. My mom was a college athlete. My dad was a college athlete. Mom and dad have both coached in their own respective sports and fields. And but my parents' best friends were the parents of my teammates.
Right.
My best friends were teammates, right? And I think at every level you see that.
And you probably still see that. Like I mean, my son's team is his team, and if I go back to where they played, they're all like, "Hi, team mom," and I was scorekeeper. I was always the scorekeeper.
Yeah.
I mean, through high school, I was always the scorekeeper, and so I was always, they'd say, "If we be nice to you, can you just give it to us?" Like, because they didn't want to have them be the wild pitch, right? Because Mitch was a catcher, and so I'm always looking for the wild pitch, and they're always looking for the air on the catcher, and it was just funny. But it's still funny because we still talk about that today.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the growth that sports can give your child, and their esteem, and I don't mean just competition and winning. I think my son his confidence, and he learned more when he lost than when he enjoyed winning.
Yeah.
But the losing made him a better winner.
Right.
And just the confidence of being able to deal with that. Being able to deal with different personalities and still have to work as a team.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. That's hard for adults in work fields that maybe didn't have sports.
Yeah.
But I think sports just really helps with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or from what I've seen. I mean,
absolutely. And I'm sure that's not to say you need to be in athletics because of that, but you and I have experienced that it's just so beneficial for a lot of people.
I think that is beneficial, and I think, just being healthy. Start young.
Yeah. Right.
Start young on health.
Yeah.
Teach them. If you can teach them now, it's so much easier than teaching them later.
Yeah.
My kids got made fun of for eating salads.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, Mitch would go.
It's crazy.
He would go with the team, and they would eat, and he would always have a salad, and he would have lesser of a meat choice, and because that's how he grew up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think that if they're healthy, they're going to feel good. And it's like you said, they're going to sleep good. They're going to retain what the school is going to be easier. I mean, there's just so many positives.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things come out of it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned building those habits early. I think one of my old professors from Messiah, when I was there, she was a college athlete, and her experience as a female post-college athlete is very interesting, talking about identity, talking about like, how do I make my exercise habits long term and lifelong when there's no competition that I'm gearing up for. There's so she does she's an exercise physiologist and professor of exercise science. She does a lot of research in like what are good healthy ways for women, especially college age women, to develop a relationship with exercise that lasts long term. Love what her focus is, and I would love to get her on here at some point soon.
So important, because then you enter in possibly the whole childbearing and and you've got to go right back.
Right.
And it's I'm doing it. I just had a new grandson over Thanksgiving, so it's been the best of the best. Oh, the best. Yeah. He's so cute. But as I watched my daughter go through that, I am very thankful that she has the basis of nutrition that she has.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to say postpartum isn't hard, and it's hard on everyone, and it is weird.
Right.
And it's not the same for it's just. Right. But she knows that the calorie intake of foods, not having sugar, not having caffeine, not having that at this point will help her so much, and it will, and it does.
Yeah.
And she will take care of it faster because of that, and I'm just thankful for that, because I just in the medical field see so many people struggle with that.
Yeah.
So it's, if you can have that mentality that they know, and they know the difference.
Yeah.
Like have you ever? You probably haven't have kids, but one time I just let my kids eat all their Halloween candy. They're like, "Can we eat it all?" I said, "Yeah." And I said. And they ate it, and they got so sick. And they were sick, and they didn't feel good. And then the next day, they didn't want anything to do with it.
Right.
And from then on, my kids, when they went trick-or-treating, they'd get candy, and we would go take it to the dentist, and the dentist would buy it from them. Wow. We had a dentist that paid $6 a pound.
Wow.
And so you just could take your trick-or-treat candy to them, and you dump it out, and you have it on a scale, and he'd pay you $6 a pound if you give it to him. That's how my kids trick treated.
That's high class, because that dentist could have gotten a lot of business out of letting the kids go for it.
Teaching moment.
That is huge. That's huge to have somebody who, they're walking the walk like that. That's cool.
And I didn't know really that I should have let them do it, but in my situation it worked.
Right.
Because my kids know when they can eat, they know when they have to stop. It's very common for my daughter, or really for both of my daughters, they'll buy a candy bar, they'll eat 2 bites, and they'll throw it away.
Yeah.
Because that's how we taught them.
Right.
If you want it, take it. Don't finish it if you don't want it. And they wanted a piece. And that was it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's, I'm sure they learned that in respect to the rest of the stuff, but I'm telling you that year that they did that, trick-or-treating went so much easier.
Yeah.
Than having to fight with them and them crawling up. I was a nervous wreck, because in pediatrics, kids would climb up on the counter and get the candy, they'd fall off, and we're doing stitches, and we're doing concussions, and I'm like, so where do you put it that they can't get it?
Yeah.
Where? My kids are going to
climb
climb anywhere.
Cabinet.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd have to lock it, you'd have to hide it, whatever, and so I was just like, get it over with. Let's get it over with. So.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Funny how where life takes you,
unique.
Isn't it?
Right. Cool. Well, anything you want to add before we finish up? I
have just had such a great time being able to talk about things that are so meaningful, and
absolutely.
things I wish I would have known earlier. And if you just, I think if one thing I could end on is just know that life is good and you should feel good living it.
Right.
And if you don't, it's, start investigating. Write down what's wrong.
Yeah.
Don't go to the doctor and just let him ask you questions and lead you in a direction.
Right.
Just write that down so that no, I did this and then this happened. And with sleep, if you're not feeling good and you're tired, ask someone that knows about your sleep. And just easy corrections. Don't think it's so difficult, because I think that's how I was when I was broken. It was like, how do I fix it? I can't fix it. I don't have time to fix it. That was an awful
that got
state.
you to start.
Yeah, and literally 1 week of my life is all it took to get back on track.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 week.
Right.
And it seemed like it was hopeless. It did. And so there's hope. There's always hope. And we should be enjoying life. Life is short. Enjoy it. Like my grandma used to say, work hard and definitely play harder. And that's how you live. That's how you live life, to have it fun. So.
Well, nothing better to end on.
Right? I think that's a thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe.